Hello, this is Colonel Conrad Reynolds with the Kernel of Truth. Welcome back for another episode that you're going to love. You're going to love my guest that I've got. Her name is Tina Peters. And let me tell you before I bring her on a little bit about her. She's a Gold Star mom, number one. Number two, you may have heard about her. She got national and international attention in 2021. For being the clerk of Mesa County in Colorado. And she was a big, one of my heroes. She really is, because she stood up and she made sure that everybody knew what she found out about the voting machines. You know, here at the Kernel of Truth, one of the things that we try to push is education and getting people to understand we have a problem in this country and we need to get people to be knowledgeable, have an interest, and take action. Tina Peters did all of that before any of us came on board. And so I am so pleased to have her. And so let me introduce to my audience, Tina Peters. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Colonel. I appreciate being here.
Well, I know that you ran for your first election. You stood up because there was a problem with the DMV. Is that right? There was a problem with the motor vehicle problem, and you were trying to help make that more efficient. Is that right?
Well, it started back, I was a business owner for 32 years. It started back in 2016 when I said, we cannot let that woman get into office, meaning the White House. And you know who I'm talking about.
Right.
And so I went to a volunteer meeting. At the volunteer meeting, I was one of 8 people. And I said, oh my gosh, I thought people that were good at this politicking thing were taking care of this. And I realized very quickly that we are the government. We are the ones that are supposed to be taking care of this. And so I started walking, knocking on doors, talking to people, fell in love with the people, decided that after the election, I was a cancer survivor. I just decided that I wanted to give back and ran for office. I looked for the office that I could benefit the most. And we had 3.5-hour wait times in our motor vehicle department. It was there was a waiting room before you got to the waiting room. And people were suffering. You know, they were having to take a day off work, having to get childcare. It was awful. I said, I can fix that. My late Navy SEAL son said in his SEAL Team 6 paperwork, it says, describe your mom. And he put, she fixes things. Unfortunately, I ran for office. Unfortunately, while I was running for office, I lost my son. Mm. And so God taught me how to compartmentalize, which has been very helpful with what's going on now.
And just so the audience knows, it was Remington Peters. So we got to remember his name. I just want to make sure we put that out there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, and so I won. They didn't like that I won because they had already picked someone to step into that role as the county clerk and recorder, because not only was it the motor V, registration tags and things like that, that I was over 5 divisions, including elections. So after I solved all the problems, opened offices, stayed within budget, changed the culture of the clerk's office, I was also running the elections. And 2020 came and went. I thought I ran a great election. I had done 7 elections, and the 2021 election came. A municipal election, local election is what I want people to understand. Is local election came. And when I pulled those results, I said, there's no way these people won. I knew my constituents. And that's what started a turn in my life. When I was a cancer survivor, I said to God, I said, I'm okay. If it's my time to go, I'm okay with that. I said, but my prayer, and I kind of wagged my finger. I said, my prayer, don't let me leave this earth until I accomplish everything you sent me here to do. And right at that moment, I knew I was going to live and not die. Had no idea that he would use me to expose massive fraud. No one had ever seen inside the machines before, the voting machines.
Well, I want you to continue with the story because when you took over that office, what did you find to be the major, what was the learning curve? Let's put it that way, as far as the election machines and all that. Did anybody come talk to you about how to run it? And who were the people that convinced you or told you that, hey, it's all good, no problems here?
Well, they cleaned out the office. My opponent and the clerk before me, didn't want me to win so bad. They wanted me to fail. They cleaned out the office with of managers and stuff. So I had a whole big hill to climb, but being a business owner and knowing how to manage people and do the complex budgets and things like that, we did quite well. And I had a great crew of people. With the elections, I believe the Secretary of State. I believe the voting system vendor when they told me that these machines could not connect to the internet. It was against the law for them to connect to the internet or have the capability to, that they were air gapped. And that they were coming in to just do routine upgrades and things like that. So I believed, I say I drank the Kool-Aid. I believed what I was told. It was when I pulled those results and after I had constituents come to me that were walking door to door, talking to voters. And they would walk up to the door and they say, the records show that 10 people voted here. And they say, no, it's just me and my wife. And they started filling out affidavits and they started bringing them to me. And I said, bring them to me. If you find something, just bring it to me. I'm sure it can be explained. And they would tell, I was told about, we did logic and accuracy tests. We did risk limiting audits. We did all these things that what I've learned are just show, they're just for show. So when it came time for after that 2021 municipal election, they were coming in the next month to do what they called a trusted build. Isn't it interesting how something so evil and nefarious can be cloaked in righteous sounding words, as it turned out? So I wanted to protect a software program that they had said they were going to delete, which was a QR code program. And I asked IT if they would help me. They said, no, we don't want to do that. And so I arranged someone to come in and do a forensic image, which is totally legal. It's admissible in court. I did a before they came in and an after they came in image of the election management server, and doesn't collect any personal identifying information, anything like that. It's basically a snapshot of what the system looked like at that period of time.
During the election.
This is during that period of time. So this right. was before they came in, before the machine vendor came in to do and what they called an upgrade, and then after they left. When the cyber experts looked at the images, and there's a lot of information on these images, they found that they had deleted 29,000 election records. When I say they, I mean the Dominion or the voting vendor and the Secretary of State's office that came to do this upgrade. They deleted 29,000 vital election records. These aren't just any kind of election records. These are access and audit log files that prove how you got to the total of the election. These show who went in and out, what access was, that was made available to the system, and that sort of thing. 29,000 deleted. And people can look at these actual reports on my website on tinapeters.us.
So say that slow so they get it. I want everybody to know. tinapeters.us.
Right. Just my name. My name and for the United States.us. So the reports came out, after a few months, but when the Secretary of State found out that I had done this, all hell broke loose. So I was at the Mike Lindell Symposium, our friend Mike Lindell, and they went in, raided my office, shuttered up the windows, papered up the windows, wouldn't let anybody see what was going on. I was at the Lindell Symposium at the time, learning more about elections, and then they called in, they contacted the vendor, all hell broke loose, and they started coming after me.
Wow. And now give us a time frame. When was that? So the election was that in March of 2021?
2021. This has been over 2 years now.
Right. So for 2 years they've been coming after you, but that was the election that we're talking about, that you saw something that was wrong, and then fast forward a month or two, and then that's when you had the image done, and that's when they came in May of that year. Is that right?
So when they did when after the election, a month later, they were coming in to do this software upgrade, what they call Trust to Build. I did the image before and after. That was in May. And then in August, it was leaked that I had this information. They freaked out. They would have been wise just to have stayed quiet about it. People have asked me, if you could go back and do something different, what would you do? And I said, well, I would have liked for it to come out quietly instead of on stage at Mike Lindell's event. I was totally taken by surprise. But God had a different plan, because I believe that if this hadn't have been so public, that it wouldn't have garnered the attention that it has gotten. I mean, Merrick Garland has been involved in this from the very beginning. And you have to ask yourself, why would the Attorney General of the United States be so interested in a local clerk's office in a small town in Colorado?
Which is very important, because we have in our state, in Arkansas, we have 75 counties, and of those 75, probably 73 are considered small county. Again, we have a county clerks there. You stood up and saw something that was wrong, and you called it out. I don't think that you joined or you decided to run for office to go against some of the big election machine companies, did you?
No.
I mean,
the people elected me, and that's who I listened to. And that's what you want in an elected official. You want somebody that you elect that's going to, if you come to their office, they're going to, or call them on the phone, they're going to answer and talk to you and address your concerns. And that's all I did. I mean, I wasn't a superwoman or anything like that. I just love the people. I'd fallen in love with the people. And when I saw that their vote, there was possibility in things not being done properly or legally. It is every clerk or whoever handles the election equipment. It is their responsibility federally to maintain these election records for 22 months. In my state of Colorado, it's 25 months. And this was 6 months after the election. Well,
and you're on the hook. I mean, that is your responsibility to protect that election information, correct?
That's right.
And so it wouldn't be out of line for what you were doing to make a backup copy. It seemed like that would be a smart thing. It seemed like that would be what we call in the military SOP, standard operating procedure, just in case something happened.
You would think. But what we have found from the reports that have come out. So the first report came out, it showed that there were 29,000 election records. The second report came out and it showed there were 36 wireless devices, Colonel.
Wow.
These are systems that aren't supposed to be connected to the internet, nor have the capability to be connected to the internet, right? There were 36 wireless devices.
Well, I do want to talk about that. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about what they found. And I want to tell you a little story about one of our little counties here in Arkansas. But we'll be right back with the Kernel of Truth with Tina Peters. Join us back in just a minute. Welcome back to the Kernel of Truth. I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds with my guest, Tina Peters, and we're talking about what went on in her county. She was the county clerk in Mesa County, Colorado, and we were talking about what they found in these machines. So can you pick up your story where we just left off, and I want to hear more about what they found.
It's interesting because when I was flown from the symposium to a undisclosed location in Texas. A week later, my hotel room was forcibly broken into. The door jamb was bent open. And so after that, I had 24/7 armed security until the first report came out. And then I felt safe enough to go back home and present it. I presented it to the commissioners and to the DA. They did nothing. Second report comes out. I told you what was in that, 36 wireless devices and unauthorized software. Gave it to them, nothing. So this is what they said to me. They said, yeah, but you haven't shown us how it flips votes, how it's able to flip votes. So I went to the cyber guys, and you'll find it if you audit the 2021 municipal election on April 6th. Sure enough, that's what report number 3. In report number 3, and people can watch the movie on my website, Tina Peters, just my name.us, or they can go on Twitter at Real Tina Peters, and it's pinned there, called Selection Code. Mm-hmm. And it describes how they actually do this. So when the ballot is inserted into the machine, the black box that you can't see what's going on in there, it's an image. Takes a pic, like you were to take a snapshot, takes an image of the ballot. Then after about 25,000, and we saw this in the municipal election, but they also saw that it happened in the 2020 election, that after about 25% of them went through, then those images were transferred over to a second database. So if you were a bookie, that would be, there's books that you show, and there's secret books, right? So this was a secret database, an adjudication and a tabulation database that mirrored the other one, but they would transfer some of these ballots over. And we know they're not the same ballot images of the original ballot because they don't have the identifying, it's called a .sha file. It's a file ending. We know they're not the same, but we know they've been changed because they don't even go through adjudication the same. Uh-huh. So it's the same ballot, it would be kicked out for the same things or been asked to look at, or the machine would have to adjudicate it the very same. So we know that that's how they're doing it. But there's also it's like cannibalizing scripts that are in the machine that it deletes what's going on. So after it reaches a certain point, and there's plenty of room on the server. You don't need to limit the file size or the capacity of the server. It will delete what was before it. So this is going on in these machines. And we were able to actually show that in that race for city council, there were the winning margin was 3,000. There's 8,000 votes that cannot be verified. In the 2020 general election, the presidential election, there were 25,000 votes. That about a quarter of the votes were not able to be verified. And so, and Trump won, and I just want to make it clear, Trump won in our county, but people need to understand that if they shave a little off here in this county, a little off there in that county, just not to attract too much attention. And I saw this in my Secretary of State race. I ran for Secretary of State, and I saw it was the night of the election, they were actually flipping the vote. After the people went home at 10 in this certain county, they changed votes, flipped them at 11:30 at night. So we got to get rid of it.
Well, we know that some of the problems that we've seen here in Arkansas and across the country, obviously, frankly, is the local officials are not computer experts. I mean, they're your average citizens who stepped up, decided they wanted to do something for their county or whatever, and they took on a position, whether it was a justice of the peace or a county clerk, and they don't have the background, and so they have to depend, and they do listen to their state officials who also have no background, and so you got all these people verifying, saying these machines are absolutely perfect, but they get all their data from the machine companies. And I'm sure you had the same problem there.
That's right. So when in Mesa County report number 3, where we showed how they're able to actually change the vote the DA went to the machine vendor to ask for an explanation to debunk or try to debunk report number 3. And these were done by brilliant computer scientists. I mean, we're talking years. One of them was Harvard, went to Harvard to get his master's and his doctorate, taught at Texas A&M. These are brilliant people. The first report was done by a man who thwarted terrorist attacks, using what he knew of computers and things like that. So when you have a vendor telling your DA, nothing's wrong with our machines, it's a little suspect. But yeah.
Yeah, so the guy you're talking about, so our audience will know, is a district attorney there named Dan Rubenstein. And I read his report. And if you read that, it is all it does is take what's obvious from the machine vendor, the machine maker's words. And that's what they're putting to basically say, hey, this report number 3 by these computer experts is false. It's crazy. If you read it, you can see it. And so I encourage every listener to go to your site, tinapeters.us, and read those. It's 1, 2, and 3, correct?
That's right. Mesa County 1, 2, and 3. There's also Selection Code, the movie that explains Mesa County report number 3. And then I'm going to be putting on the website also the claims that the DA made and why they're false. I think that sometimes these people put out things, Colonel, that they just because they say so. But we have the receipts, we have the backup, and we have the experts.
Right. And I happen to know Dr. Walter Dougherty, and he is a super smart guy, and I've had him on the show, and I will tell you, I don't know how anybody can argue with his expertise and his conclusions. And if you notice, they really don't attack him or anything in that report. They just simply say he hasn't interviewed anybody. That's really their big claim, that he didn't interview anyone, and so therefore he can't have the claims. But everything he's looking at was on that image that was made. Right. I don't know how they do it. Well, listen, we're going to come back. We're going to take a quick break. But my name is Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and I've got Tina Peters with us, and we're going to come back in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to the Colonel of Truth. I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and I have a special guest. Tina Peters is here, and we were just talking about the report, this Mesa County reports 1, 2, and 3 that were written about what they found in the voting machines in Mesa County, Colorado. Tina, can you pick up where you left off and let's talk a little bit about these reports and what they show?
I have in front of me a one page, and I'll put this on my website. But it says forensic examination proves vote manipulation and illegal destruction of records on the voting machines. And this was written in April of 2022 by Dr. Doherty and Jeffrey O'Donnell. And they say, I'm just going to paraphrase it. There's 9 points that they make on here in summary, but it says that as independent experts, we determined that the machine secretly manipulated ballot data and destroyed election records. Here are key findings. After the vote counting was underway, thousands of ballots that had already been counted were secretly reprocessed inside the voting machine, undetected by election officials. And then he says, alarmingly, the voting system had internal Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wireless adapters that allowed unauthorized external connectivity, including to the internet. And he said this opened the door for almost any computer with internet access anywhere in the world to connect to the software and server. It says that the hard drive image showed that 2 new unauthorized shadow databases were secretly created, either after the counting began, either through hacking or preset algorithms. It shows that the already counted ballots were moved over to these secret shadow databases and recounted without notice to the election officials or judges. And this brings up what the colonel said, is that I would have had no way to know. None of my election officials would have no way to know, and neither do those that are out there. And then it said the machine made only the reprocessed ballot files visible to local election officials and hid the original, not reprocessed ballot files. So and then it talks about there was no record of the original vote count before the the shadow databases were created, and the machine was preset to erase critical records within just a few days, including activity logs and user logins, which basically covered the tracks of anyone committing unauthorized access, software installation, manipulation, or network connections. And then it talks about the vendor and the Secretary of State destroyed all data on the hard drive of the Mesa County machine 1 month after the April 2021 election as part of their trusted build, even though federal and state laws require the retention of records for 22 and 25 months. So these are experts. None of this can be debunked or has been debunked.
Well, and just so that the audience understands, because there's a lot of people who are not computer savvy and they don't really quite get all of that. So let's just try to put it in really simple terms. What happened was you had a computer that was used in the election, and we believe there was, or you believe there was software running on that computer that manipulated the election in some way or fashion. So what happened, you found out that they were going to come and update that, just like you were going to update a phone or your computer system at home. And what that does, it really does completely rewrite the program in some ways. And so you wanted to make sure that evidence of that was not destroyed. So you had a copy. There was a copy made, a mirror copy of what was on. So you had that in your hand. Then when they came and they did their trusted build, and now you have a hard drive that looks completely different than the one that you saved. And then you were able to compare those before and after. So then you were able to see what they actually destroyed and got rid of. Is that correct?
That's right.
So now there's no way they could argue that, because you are showing them, hey, this is what was here. It's not here anymore. It was wiped out. And that is what these 3 reports that you're talking about that Dr. Dougherty and Jeff O'Donnell put together to be able to document that. But you're telling me the DA did nothing with those reports?
They've just come after me with a vengeance. The same DA that let a guy go with 26 pounds of fentanyl and others that had fentanyl, let him go on probation, has gone after me, Merrick Garland, the whole, we're talking the state, the Secretary of State, the Colorado AG. The thing of it is this cannot be explained away. These are the facts. But what they would like to do is they would like to throw me in prison to send a scare message to any other clerk or any other election official that should step forward and criticize elections. As a matter of fact, after all this was what I did was not illegal, but what I call the selected legislature and selected officials put through a law that basically made what I did illegal after the fact, which means that no one can do this in Colorado anymore, which wouldn't stand up in a court of law. This is you have to. These are access and audit log files that must be preserved. They even went so far in Senate Bill 22-153 to make it, if you don't agree as a county clerk in any of the 64 counties here, the Secretary of State can override and certify the election. They also said that if you criticize, you can be found, you can be prosecuted. So,
if you criticize the system that is being used, are we living in Russia? I mean, this is what my question is.
Venezuela, Brazil. I mean, all this has been done there as well. So that's why it's so important for people to stand up, because they want to single me out because I exposed the belly of this election beast, and they would like to put me in prison. But I won't give up, and I won't back down. General Flynn told me, he said, the safest you will be is as vocal and visible as you can. And so I'm naming names. I'm out there. They want to take my home. They want to put me in prison. They've violated. They did put me in jail. And I remember laying in the jail cell. And I'm thinking, do I have to run for sheriff to fix this dirty place? I mean, it was awful. And people have no idea. And that's something, if you don't mind me talking about, people have no idea about our liberties. When I was in jail for 36 hours, and I was on a cold, wet floor on a 1-inch cracked 1-inch pad. They don't turn the lights off. It's freezing in there I was in with 5 other women. Our mats were like touching each other in a toilet. And, you have no idea out there, people, how quickly they can take away your liberty. And
right.
if you don't stand up now, it will be you. And when they can take a Gold Star mom, that doesn't have any criminal history, any past, and do this, they're coming after all of us. And
That's
we've
right.
got
We got to stand up. You're exactly right. We're going to take another break. I'm sorry, but because you're so incredible guest. You're an incredible guest, and so we're going to be right back. And thank you so much. This is Colonel Conrad Reynolds with the Colonel of Truth. We'll be back in just a minute with Tina Peters. This is Colonel Conrad Reynolds. Welcome back to the Colonel of Truth. I'm here with my special guest, Tina Peters, who is the county clerk, Mesa County Clerk there in Mesa County in Colorado. And we've had a riveting interview so far. And for our last segment, we've got a lot to talk about, particularly about lawfare and how they're using it against you, Tina. But before we do that, I would like to ask you a little bit about the county clerks here in our state. They need a little education, I think, when it comes to what they don't know. And I know when you took over, there were a lot of things you didn't know, and you learned a lot. Can you talk to the county clerks here in our state a little bit?
Well, I love the county clerks because that's a big job. And I know the last thing a county clerk wants is more work to do because they have plenty. But they have a lot of responsibility too. There's a lot of laws that they have to keep. And one of them is really important, and that is the law of retaining records. In our town, the county clerk and recorder, we keep records, we preserve records. And when you have someone coming in, a vendor, a state actor coming in and manipulating your office, you have to stand up. You have to stand up and do what's right for your constituents because the vote is so important. But I love county clerks. I think I have a special place in my heart because their job is not easy. It's very, very, but they don't know. I didn't know. But as a businesswoman, I don't follow along with I have critical thinking. And a lot of people are taught to just do what we did before. This is the way we did it before. This is the way we've always done it. The machines are more efficient and all this stuff, which isn't true. And, the county commissioners as well can pull the plug and say, we're not paying for this. They're the ones that hold the purse strings.
Right.
So the clerks can actually do some processes that will make it more transparent. So if you can't get rid of the machines, just do a process. When the ballot comes out or before it goes in, just go ahead and have your bipartisan team sit across from each other and have a caller that calls it out and use a mechanical clicker and just compare make sure that both are accurate. And that will go a long way to encourage your constituents and your voters, your electors to vote. Because if people don't have confidence that it's a transparent process.
Well, the transparency portion is what we're really pushing because we know that voters don't trust the current system. In fact, there was a poll done, and not a poll, but they ranked all the states as far as voter participation. And believe it or not, Arkansas and Oklahoma battle for last place as far as voter participation. And I know why. It's because they don't trust that their vote was actually counted. And what's funny is, I mean, our Secretary of State never brings that up at all, about that we are the bottom of the barrel when it comes to voter participation. I want more people to vote. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independents. We want them all to vote, and we want to make sure that they know that their vote actually counted. But that's our challenge that we have here. I would like to talk a little bit about one of the incidents we had here. I'll just throw this out at you. It was Lee County, and what happened was we wanted to get last July, we wanted to go and get the cast vote record. But we found out a lot of the county clerks didn't even know how to pull it up. Didn't even know what it was, to be honest with you. It's not that hard, but it's like when you go to a word, and you want to do a word program, and you say, click here, click here, click here, and you show them how to bring that report up so that it's available. Right. So we had another guy who went to one of the counties, Lee County. He knew the election commissioner there and said, hey, can I look at your computer, your laptop, the one that you put all the election stuff on, that has the electionware on there? Can you show me, and just click, and I'll take pictures of it, and then I will put that in a report. This is what it looks like. Click here, click here, click here. And they got permission from the election commissioner, State Board of Election Commissioners. Said, yeah, that's no problem. You can take pictures of that as long as you're not touching it, right? So they did. They took quick pictures of that. They put it into a 3-page little report so that they could get it to different people. What happened was that report found its way somewhere. They said Montana. I don't know if that's true. But the company, ES&S, which runs all of our elections, found out about it and quickly notified our Secretary of State and said, hey, you got a problem. The problem's in this county, we think. And of course, immediately the Secretary of State's office responds, and they call up this county clerk and say, hey, there's been a breach. She goes, no, it wasn't a breach. It was there was a guy that just took a few pictures, and I was there. That's my hand you see in that picture. No one had access to it. They go, well, you're going to have to send that immediately to ES&S. We need to get it hardened, change the password. Well, I don't know what they were really scared of. They were scared that they found something. Well, she said, no, I'm responsible, just like you said, for all the data for my county. I am not letting this computer out of my, it's not leaving my office. It's not going anywhere.
There was no PII. There was no personal identifying information in what
That's right. But so 2 days later, guess what? Two people from the Secretary of State's office apparently show up, along with the deputy sheriff, along with the county judge, saying we're going to take it from her. And they did. They took it from her. And in fact, they didn't even tell her they were going in her office to take it. Somebody told her, tipped her off. She went down there. And that's what happened. And they took it and they sent it off. Now, think about that just for a second. I mean, a huge response from the Secretary of State's office and from ES&S for a trusted county clerk who is simply helping people get the cast vote record.
Transparent, just being transparent. It's their elections.
That's right. So we had that right here. And so we can see how they can bring law enforcement against you. And in your case, they really did. And that's why I want to talk about lawfare in the last few minutes that we have. I want you to tell us about what's going on with your case now, and how can people help, and tell us a little bit about what you expect is going to be the outcome at the end.
Well, so when I was flown to a undisclosed location, and my hotel room was broken into, and then I had 24/7 armed security, they were busy. They were busy with leveling charges against my chief deputy and my elections manager, and scaring them half to death. Take my my chief deputy out, who is the clerk in my stead, on some trumped up thing about that some employee complained about her or something like that. Anyway. They were busy. The voting machine vendor went to the commissioners, convinced them I was the criminal, coerced them to sign an extension to the contract for 6 more years, till 2029. Took all the equipment out. They had to buy new equipment. Of course, they blamed it on me. I was happy when they took it out. I heard that they had taken it out. And I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just hand count everything from now on, get those machines out of here. But they found me guilty. Oh, no, they found me. They convened a grand jury and charged me with 7 felonies, 3 misdemeanors. That wasn't enough. They wanted to show I was here's a woman, 67 years old, that I don't have a parking ticket or a traffic ticket or any run-in with the law whatsoever. And they want to show that I'm a pattern lawbreaker. So then they go and grab an iPad that the FBI had missed when they raided my home November 16th, 2021, pre-dawn raid, mine and 3 others, on a fishing expedition. Took every single electronic device I've ever owned, all the pictures of my kids, backups to my computers forever. And we're there till noon. Got there about 6 and we're there until noon. So whatever they can do what they want to do is they want to wear you out, wear you down. When I wouldn't sign a agreement, 10-page agreement that the Secretary of State put out to me. Now I'm an elected official. She's an elected official, but when I wouldn't sign this memorandum of understanding that I would agree to retract, recant, and repudiate what I said on Facebook Live, that these machines need to be more transparent to the people and not be allowed to do what they're designed to do. She took it to a judge and said she's going to break the law. We need to take her out of office. So they took me out of office illegally. The only way you can remove an elected official is by a recall of the people that elected them, right? So right. This continues on and on. Right now, they are, in the meantime, my husband of 30 plus years was in a nursing home. He has advanced dementia and Parkinson's. I cared for him, for 35 years. And he was in a nursing home because he could no longer function. They went in the nursing home, and the day after I was raided by the FBI. I had him sign a divorce decree. I found out 1 month before our 35th wedding anniversary that I was divorced. All my veterans benefits. He was a Marine. He was in the military, and now they want to take my house. They gave a power of attorney to an estranged sister that's never come to visit us in 3 decades in Colorado, and she is they instituted a lawsuit to take my house. And she when my husband talked to me the day after I was raided by the FBI, I said, honey, I think I did something wrong. And I said, oh, what did you do? He says, I signed something. I said, what was it? He says, I don't know, but there were a lot of people here. And so I didn't know he had signed the divorce decree. When I tried to get help from our family lawyer, the DA contacted him and said, don't help her. She's under investigation. Wow. So
everything they can do to try to destroy you, it looks like to me.
When I was in jail, arrested and put in jail, my dad died that night. The next day, I'm from jail. They're doing my arraignment, or where they set my bail. They set my bail for $500,000, $500,000. We did get it lowered, but I told them that my father died that night that I was in jail. They harassed my family, my 93-year-old mother, my daughter, in all these different states. My sisters threatened to find them in contempt if they didn't talk to him, the DA investigator. So these are people that are criminals. There is a payoff for them. I'm quite sure that we'll see their careers, if they bring my head on a platter, they'll see some career change.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the good Lord's got ways of fixing things like that, and I believe in him, and I really do. And I think that you're courageous, and I think that you're standing up, and everybody needs to know your story, and everybody needs to know what is going on with you and what's happening. How can people, my audience, how can they help you?
Thank you for that. My website, again, is my name, tinapeters.us. there's a donate button there. I just fired my old attorney. He was compromised. He was the one anyway. So I have a new team. I have 4 teams of attorneys that are very expensive, and so I'm just asking people to donate. There's a donate button there. It goes right to the legal fund, to a trustee at the legal fund. And you can also, if you'll support me on my social media channels, share this out.
We will support you, and I will tell you, I can't thank you enough for telling your story on the Kernel of Truth. We really do appreciate you. We salute you. Thank you for everything you've done for our country. I'm the Kernel of Truth. I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds. We had Tina Peters. She's been great. And join us next week for another great episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give this video a thumbs up, if you will. Like and subscribe to our channel. Very important for us to spread this message to everybody, and I can't do it without your help. This is the Kernel of Truth, and I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and thank you for joining us.